Welcome to the Mentorship Podcast, the show where the mentoree becomes the mentor. Welcome to the Mentorship Podcast, the podcast where my mentoree becomes my mentor. In today's episode, we are having Dan Kleckner. Actually, let me take that back. Dan freaking Kleckner, the man, the myth, the legend, and we are going to be talking about putting forth dreams, putting forth like ambitions, and then actually executing on it. So many people have things that they want to accomplish in their life, and they say it, but they don't do the hard work to execute it. This man is the exact opposite of that. He's my mentor. He's someone who's inspired me. His business acumen and his ability to create businesses, his ability to make them flourish, even in the hard times, has inspired me. And I'm always just like, man, whenever I have a business question to ask, this is the guy I go after for my mentorship. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate having him not only as a mentor, but also a fantastic friend. Dan Kleckner, welcome to the Mentorship Podcast.
Oh, thanks, Jay. It's an honor to be here, man. It's always fun to chop it up with you. And I've been working 7 years to finally get an invite on this podcast. So I'm glad that we could.
7 years to make it on the pod. And hey, you're here. There's a lot of firsts that happened this year, and we're going to go diving deep into it. But before we do that, I want to tell a quick little story. I want to tell a story, and it's really not a story, but it's more like a, I've been reading a lot and, Buddhist scripts and stuff, and just kind of learning some different ways of looking at the world. And one of the things that really caught my eye was the Buddhist act of work. And the Buddhist act of work is, let's say we have this office, this, podcast studio. Well, if I was to paint this podcast studio, or I was to create even just like a mural on this wall behind me, I would take a lot of effort to make it just right and make it just perfect. Now, that's great. Normally, this is what people do. But what a Buddhist would do is they would make it absolutely perfect. And the moment that they finish it, they'd look at it, acknowledge it, and then they'd paint it over again and then start the process again. And the reason why they do that is because they love the work. The real value of the art is the work, not the finished product. So I preface that because, we've already recorded this podcast.
I didn't know if you were going to mention that or not, but
yeah, we already did this podcast. And I, in a true Buddhist fashion, decided to erase the entire podcast. And so we're doing it again. But you know what, Dan? I think this is a good thing, because what happened before when we recorded it, you were just about to do this big event. And now it's done, and we can talk about what that experience was like. Dan just finished his first Perform Better Summit presentation, which he said, how many years ago, Dan?
7, man, right?
7 years ago?
7 years ago.
7 years ago at the mentorship, you said, Jay, I want to be a Perform Better speaker. And everyone around you laughed, and they're like, that guy? And I said, no, I think he's got the chops. I think he can do this. And it happened. Talk to me, buddy. How was that whole experience of, like, you wanted it, you dreamt about it, and then you worked your ass off for 7 years, and by golly, you got on the Perform Better stage during COVID.
Yeah, man, it was pretty cool. Obviously, it would have been great to be able to do it live this year in Long Beach like was planned, but world circumstances didn't allow us to do that. But it was still a really cool experience, man. I guess you could say I'm an overnight success, like 7 years in the making, because I think people don't really understand the work that goes into these kind of goals and being a Perform Better speaker and that kind of stuff. So it was a ton of work. I think I've shared the story with you before that when I was working with Thomas Plummer, one of my mentors, he recommended that I fly down to this event in Long Beach where Chris Poirier, who's the head of Perform Better, was going to be at, and literally just fly down there for 24 hours, have lunch with Chris, kind of get some FaceTime with him, and then fly back, which I thought was a little bit crazy, but when Tom tells you to do something, you do it. And so I spent my own money, my own way down there, flew in, spent the night, flew out the next morning just to spend some time with Chris to try to get on his radar for the Perform Better Summit, and it worked. And so that's just one of the stories that shows there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of people have that goal. But I don't think they realize the work and time you got to put in to achieve that as well. And
yeah, it's not just work either, right? It's sacrifice. I mean, you sacrificed time away from your family, you sacrificed monetary sacrifices, but that goes back to my initial story. It's about the work. So too many people, I believe, equate, if I do X, I will get Y. And there has to be some kind of, if I do this, I have to get this. And it wasn't until I started doing things for myself for the purpose of the practice of, for instance, doing a podcast is the practice of becoming a better speaker. Doing video work and editing video gives you the practice of understanding how to create things and manipulate things to make it something unique in your own. So I don't see your trip down there as this, you didn't go down there going, well, this better pay off. It was just like, no, this is what I need to do. This is, because guess what? The people that didn't speak on Perform Better this year, guess what they didn't do? They didn't get on a plane and go and meet the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Poirier. So you did it. You earned it.
Yeah, man. And it was a really cool experience. And now I just got to continue to work to get invited back next year. I also think people don't realize that there's several hundred speakers applying for this every year and only the top, 60 make it. And so it's cool that I made it.
I think you're underestimating that number, buddy.
Yep. And now I got to work even harder to keep getting invited back. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You knocked it out of the park. It was a home run. I'm going to use 7 baseball analogies in one sentence. And what I loved about it was that you were speaking about a topic that was so poignant and so important for coaches out there right now. And that's why this we're going to talk about all that stuff today on this podcast to help the listeners and the people that are watching at home, just give them a little bit of maybe some hope, but also some skills that are going to help them with their business. We need that right now. And what was great is you took a product that I've seen you do. I've seen like the kind of the workouts that you did, the speaking events that led to this. And then right before you're about to do your show, COVID hits and you had to quickly change your talk and adjust it to today's new norm. So that also took some guts and it took some skills. Talk to me a little bit about maybe some of those nuances that you had to make adjustments on, not just slides, but really it was more the temperament I felt of the talk.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the theme of 2020 for everybody is adapt. I think the people that aren't adapting and changing and moving forward are going to be left behind, unfortunately. So, I mean, when we were shut down here for 3 months with our business, so first of all, we just had to pivot and change our game plan and make everything work just to continue to keep our doors open and create the numbers and revenue and all that kind of stuff we wanted to. But as far as the talk goes, yeah, I was planning to talk out and then all this stuff happened and I had to pivot. And I mean, I think everybody just needs some help and some guidance right now. I think a lot of people are kind of, down and going through tough times. And so I think it's, my duty as a consultant, as a speaker and stuff to kind of try to give people, I mean, there's no game plan. Nobody's ever been through this. So there's no roadmap for COVID-19, but at least give them some steps and some stuff that has helped us to be able to keep our doors open and continue to succeed. And so a lot of that was in the talk as well. Cause I mean, that was my whole goal. The whole thing is just to kind of help people where they're at, meet them where they're at right now and just try to get them to survive this, honestly.
But that's my point is that if you came into that talk and just started talking about, you got to double up on your business, you got to put everything in, you got to go deep. If you're not doing it, if you're not going bankrupt, then you're not trying. Like that would just not that would be your talk ever. But I'm just saying that's that kind of temperament wouldn't go very well in these times. I think that you approached it in with some sensitivity to the fact that a lot of people were struggling and are struggling and will continue to struggle, but you gave them some good tips and some good tools to move forward with. So dude, I can't say how proud I am. And I was also humbled and honored to have you giving me a shout out on that. You acknowledged your mentors, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal because it's not for ego. It's honestly, we can have this conversation, just the two of us, but for you to be able to put that out publicly, that just meant the world to me. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I know you're not one to toot your own horn, but I mean,
did I just toot?
none of that stuff would have happened, man. The performative stuff wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you and the mentorship and the spark that I got from there just to move forward with my career and stuff. And so guys like yourself and Tom have been such a huge part of my life and part of my business journey and stuff that I would not be doing my due diligence if I didn't give you guys a little shout out and thank you. So.
Well, let's go down that road for a minute, because right behind you is a fantastic logo. Cutting Edge Performance, that you guys have done an amazing job of building not only gyms, but building a community. And every time I go down to your gym, just so people know, when I'm training some of my pro athletes, I'll go down and train out of his facilities because they're always clean. They're always got everything I need. Everything's put together. The staff are so nice. Everybody just treats me like gold and my player like gold. And they always leave there going, man, this is such a great spot. But you created that. That doesn't happen by accident. You had to curate that. And maybe we could just share a little story about how, when we first met, you were working for another employer and you were like, Jay, I want to start out on my own and start a business. I want to have my own gym. And whenever people say that, I'm always reluctant, because I'm always like, do you know what you're getting into? Why do you want a gym? And they go, because I love being a coach. And I'm like, okay, so you want to open a gym and sit in an office all day so you can be a great coach? And they're like, yeah, because that's just what happens. But you actually wanted to become a businessman. So maybe just take us down maybe the road of going from employee to gym owner to then becoming more of like a business guru.
Yeah, for sure, man. So when I came to your mentorship, it was 7 years ago. I was in the process of working for another small startup gym that had been open for a couple of years. I was just their main coach, just at the facility there. And pre to that, which I shared in my Perform Better talk, I was actually fired from the first job that I did as a trainer at a big Microsoft gym here. So I was doing that for 5 years. Kind of some crazy circumstances, a little bit out of my control, got fired from there, had to kind of pivot, figure out what I wanted to do. Went to a small training gym, got to kind of learn the business side of things there, but I was working for somebody else. And I knew obviously when I came to the mentorship that wasn't something that I wanted to do forever. But at the same time, I don't know if I know I didn't have the confidence at that point to step out on my own and open up my own thing. And so there's just a lot of self-discovery in your mentorship, and it took the other 7 people in the room just to be like, dude, yeah, why aren't you running your own gym? Like, yeah. Of course you're doing that for me to get the confidence to be able to do that on my own. So fast forward, that was 7 years ago, right about a year after the mentorship, we opened up our first location in Kirkland. And during that whole time, I was doing calls every week with Thomas Plummer and Rick Mayo, and then also working with one of our clients here who's a big time business guy who's done a lot of startup business stuff, and put in about a year of legwork just to get the doors open and get all the procedures and policies in place. And I was super fortunate that I got some really good advice from the start that the business can't be relying upon me. It can't be something that I'm coaching 40 hours a week. That's not going to give me enough time to do the business stuff and help grow and stuff like that. And so we had it from day one where I was only training about 15 to 20 hours a week. Now I'm only training about 5 hours a week.
Wait a second. Whoa. Back it up. There are trainers out there that would love to be working 15 to 20 hours a week. You were doing that and running your business and, let me add, a young family. So let's put a pin in that, because maybe at the end we can talk a little bit about life balance. And one of the goals that you had when you struck out to start your own gym, it was for the reason of what is this going to give me in the future for life balance. So maybe you sacrificed a lack of life balance early on to get your business started. And by the way, that's what you have to do. But then as we go through that, just keep that in the back of your mind that, that was one of your goals. It was own a business, but then also be able to have a life where you could raise your children and have quality time with them and give them a life that you wanted to give them. So yeah. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, something that always stuck with me on that was I went to a lot of the NFBA seminars with Tom, obviously, and he was always speaking about using your gym as a vehicle for personal freedom and stuff, and financial freedom. So obviously there's a certain amount of money we want to make. We have all that kind of goal stuff, but really all the gym and all that kind of stuff for me is just, it creates wealth that allows me to have the personal freedom and personal financial freedom and time to spend with my family. So that's what drew me to the business ownership stuff as well. I like coaching. I knew I didn't want to coach 40 hours a week though. So the business side of it really was appealing to me, to be able to create a vehicle that allows me to have my own personal time and personal freedom and spend time with my family and travel and do the stuff that's important to me. And so that I was taught that early, and it's something that really stuck with me and has really helped me to be able to just kind of keep things on track and kind of grounded.
But saying that also, when I was a young trainer working in it, and it sounds crazy, but 8-hour days, like 8 hours of training on floor. And I always put that as a badge of success. I always thought of myself as, if I had 40 hours of training that week, I was one of the best trainers around. And then Thanksgiving would come or something, or Christmas, and everybody would start canceling. And I felt like I was the worst trainer in the world. So I put a lot of my self-worth into a number of how many hours I trained that week was my worth as a trainer. But then as you get older, I'm 47 this year. As I get older, the gym floor time becomes almost, I got to go to the gym and train, and it's taking me away from the stuff that I'm, really need to be doing. So it's almost like you feel like you have to be in two places at once. So I think it's not, I don't know if it's like the young trainer who's listening right now that just says, no, man, I don't want to just train. I want to train. Yeah, but you will evolve. You will evolve from that. I believe that. I think there is an evolution. And it seems like that with all our Perform Better speakers. The coaches that have been in the game for 20 years, 20 plus years, I've been in there for 25 years. Yeah, I see a similar path of trainer, build a business, be inside the business, and then slowly start to detract yourself from that business and then run it from the outside. But you had some help in the first gym with your brother. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think you're right. It's a natural evolution for everybody, because I was a trainer doing the split shifts and training 12 hours a day for, 5-6 years, actually more like 6-7 years, and then evolved from there. And then, yes, the first location that we opened up, it was my brother and I. He's still a small part of it, but he's moved on to do some other stuff. We talked about this in the first podcast recording. Maybe we'll hit on it a little bit more, but partnerships are tough, man. If you're a business owner, partnerships can be extremely difficult. And my brothers and I's relationship, I think, was saved from the fact that we were able to realize that owning the business together and trying to run the day-to-day together was not working. And so now we're in the best spot we've ever been. He still lives close to us. He has a child as well, another one on the way, and our kids spend all the time together, and we have a great relationship now. But there was some tension for about a year or two. It's hard when everything's 50-50 and you don't know who has the final say on stuff. It's also hard financially because you're splitting everything 50-50. So he had an opportunity in a totally different field to be able to move on, and now he's making great money doing that, and he loves it, and I'm able to step in and do the day-to-day stuff here. And so that ended up working out great for us.
I feel like there's two parts to that. There's the 50-50 revenue split, and I had that with my partner as well. But then at some point, depending on how you evolve, if you evolve in a way that one person is doing more work in the business and the other person is maybe expanding their horizons elsewhere, all of a sudden that 50-50 doesn't make much sense. And we really tried to manipulate that. We tried to manipulate like, well, let's give you more income and I'll get my income from some of my other ventures. So I'm not pulling from the company. But then there's still that, well, hey, wait a sec, like, where's my business partner? And so, yeah, I understand that. I think, and I was warned, you got to be careful going into partnerships, especially if you are a bit of a control freak and you like it your way. So I knew that I would never make a good employee. I knew that I always had to be an entrepreneur. Bringing on a partner for a small aspect of my total business, it was the biggest challenge I've had over the last decade is just trying to, am I doing enough? Feeling guilty if I wasn't there, and So I'm glad that you and your brother were able to keep your relationship going after that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, partnerships are tough in general, but I also will say to that we wouldn't have been able to grow and do the things we did the first couple of years if he wasn't here. And so I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And luckily we realized at the right time that it was time to kind of part ways and move one direction. But yeah, like we talked about, man, partnerships in general are very difficult, unless I think the only way they work is if you have a preset expectations and guidelines and everything's on paper and everybody knows what everybody's roles are and everybody can communicate that. And we kind of knew what each other's roles were, but we definitely didn't have that clearly defined enough to understand who was in charge of what and how things were gonna work that way. And so luckily we were able to move on from that and realize that.
I think another thing that I'd love for you to touch on for the young entrepreneur that's trying to strike out on their own. I have a huge debt aversion. I don't like debt. It scares me. So I was always start out slow. If I can't afford it, I'm not doing it. And you could either get a partner if you want to start a business. If you want to grow fast, you can get a partner that's going to maybe take on some of those risks with you. So your risk aversion isn't there, but you did something a little bit more creative. You got people behind you who already believed in you, and they already knew your product and they knew that you were going to be a success. Do you want to share a little bit about how you did some fundraising, creative fundraising, and then how that helped you? And would you do that again?
Yeah, I would do it again. And the other location we opened, we did kind of do that again. And so, yeah, I think first off the bat, like we talked about before, we had about a year of planning before we opened up. And a big part of that was making sure that we had all the finances and stuff straight. And we wanted to hire a full staff from day one. We weren't really on the mindset of like, let's start small and then try to add stuff in. Like, we're like, let's just get this engine running from day one and make sure we got everything in place, make sure we have the staff in place. Like we talked about before, make sure my brother and I aren't training 40 hours a week so that the gym's not relying upon us doing all the training and all that kind of stuff. And then also make sure, we're talking with our business guys and Tom and stuff, making sure that we had at least 3 months kind of reserve capital saved up too, because we didn't know how long it was going to take for us to make profit. And so really just getting all that stuff in place. And in order to do that, I mean, the numbers, it kind of varies depending on where you live at, but for us, it was about $100,000 that we needed to raise to get this first location up and running and have the staff in place and have the 3 months capital and all that kind of stuff. And so we got the advice from one of our business guys actually to just start asking clients to see if we could do either prepaid training for a year or whatever it was at the time, or do small interest loans from them. And it's funny because we ended up doing 10 clients that did $10,000 each. And when we first did that, for me to ask for $10,000 from a client, I was nervous. I was like, dude, that's so much money. There's no way they're going to give it to us. And the first ones that my brother and I asked, they're like, yeah, dude, like, do you want us to just give you a check tomorrow? Or like, do you want us to just transfer that money now? And there was like, no big deal. It was like a drop in the hat to them. And so once we did the first one or two, then we kind of were put at ease, and it was a lot easier to be able to do that, given we're in a very affluent area here in Seattle, tech world and stuff like that. So I realized that maybe that's not available to everyone. But once we did the first one, yeah, it was a little easier. And we ended up doing 5 clients at 10 grand each that all just prepaid for $10,000 worth of training up front. That was a year, 2 years, whatever it was. So that burned off. So that was interest free. So that was great. And then the other 50,000, we did 5 more clients, $10,000 each, that did a 5-year loan for us, just at a very small interest rate. And we actually paid all those off last year. So that was great.
Wow.
So yeah.
But you had to pay back the time. So those people who had $10,000 worth of training available to them, like it's like a credit. Well, that's taking up your time. And so there is a commodity, whether it's money or it's time, that those people, you've now also taken out $50,000 of revenue that might have come through them just being a customer. So it's not like you got 50 grand free. Not only did you get the 50 grand, you just got it up front.
Normally it's not really, normally it's not really business-wise recommended to get too much prepaid up front, because then it takes away from your reoccurring revenue. So we knew that, but we also knew that, it's an extreme circumstance. We're trying to get our startup capital, and that was the best way to do it. But that's, not something we normally do in our business too often. So
I think another key point that I don't want people to brush over on is the 3 months capital reserve. I think that that's a great idea to have always, not only in your business, but your personal life. And I think that with COVID and the experiences that we've gone through, man, 3 months can get sopped up pretty quick. But not having it, I know a lot of people whose businesses were basically like, it was in like redlining to each month. So like each month, if they didn't have another month, they were going out of business instantly. And they felt like they were flourishing. So they would buy like a company car and they would be all done up with rims and stuff and the logo on the side. And I'm like, how are they affording that? And it's like, well, they're not. They're like, hey, we just got 2 new clients, which is now $500 a month. We can now pay a lease on a company car worth $500. I'm like, no, take $500, put it in the bank. Well, what's it going to do there, Jay? And I'm like, you're going to save it. I always tell people, if the people that don't like the idea of saving, I go, you're saving it for your next venture. Now that next venture might not ever come, but it might just save the current venture that you're in.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then Tom always gives good advice to just plan for the worst day possible. And so we've always had that. And it held true this year as well, having to have a couple months reserves from being shut down so yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And, there's enough stress running a business anyways that you don't want to add more on financial stress to that to worry about if you're going to be able to pay your bills or be shut down. And so.
Yeah. And what's nice is just coming into the top of my head is like Thomas Plummer is like a high risk, go after your dreams, like go in, put your house up and just get what you need. And if you fail, that's okay. Pick yourself back up. And I'm the debt aversion, fear of risk guy. So really, you had mentors on both sides of you, kind of going, dude, you don't need to take that risk. And the other guy's going, dude, you know how many days I slept under my office desk just like quivering with a bottle of scotch, and I had just as many days celebrating at the top of my desk, standing on top of the bottle of scotch. And I'm like, wow, that's like, whoa, that life sounds amazing, but I'm just kind of like, no, I'll just sit here and have a coffee quietly and just be safe. So
and I think that's a good point real quick too, man, with the mentors is like, make sure that you have several mentors and don't get stuck with just one person, one way. I mean, we used Rick Mayo a lot as well. And for those guys that know Rick, like he's very different than Tom. And so between yourself and Tom and Rick, you guys were the 3 guys that I leaned on the most, and you guys are all very different. And I think that helped me a ton because it gave me, you guys do enough of the stuff like business practices similar for us to be able to get like a shell of what we want in place. But you guys also do stuff very differently, which I think we were able to kind of pull from each one and get the best of all 3 worlds, honestly, and be able to morph that into what we did. Because I think Tom's awesome and I love Tom. But if we would have just done everything he done, I don't know if we would have been able to do what we were able to do, where we could also pull from you and Rick and get kind of the best of all worlds.
So I want to move the conversation now to kind of where you go from, you have one location that's successful, and then your next thought is, I got to get another one. I got to grow. I have to evolve even more. My business partner was really interested in taking our junior program and then like having them all over the place, like all over the world was our end goal. And I just kept, again, being a safe person. I was like, until we've mastered this location, until it's like automatic, and it's successful every year, I want it to be like Starbucks. And if we can't generate the exact same experience in each location, then I'm not doing it, because my name is on that. And if they go, oh, this is like a Jason Glass product, and then they go somewhere and this was a crappy experience, that reflects on me. And I was just like, we have to, do it like Starbucks every time. Like if I'm in Berlin or I'm in Beijing, I go to a Starbucks when I feel homesick, and I just go, oh, I'm home. Ooh, kimchi cupcakes, whatever, that's different, but I can still get my Americano and whatever, right? So it's kind of the same feel. So were you able to do that? For like, obviously we're going to go there, but also the amount of work that it takes to get the first one, is it equal amount to get the second one, or did you learn so much and then be able to do kind of fast forward on the second location?
Yeah, I think we did learn a lot, and we were able to expedite that for sure with the second one. But going back to what you said and what we talked about earlier is it depends on what your goals are and stuff too, because for me, I always knew that I wanted to have 4 or 5 locations because that was financially going to be able to deliver me what I wanted to deliver as far as personal freedom and the time and all that kind of stuff that we talked about. So I always knew that was a goal, but at the same time, I think people have that goal, but they jump into it too fast sometimes and just think, okay, cool, we got one running, like, let's get the second one going. I got to get my 5 going in the first 5 years. And a lot of time those are the ones that fail. And also there's a lot of people that just do one location and do great with that. So if that's your goal, then just master that one location and you're good to go. But I knew for us, we wanted to have several of them, but I also knew we had to do it at the right time frame and stuff like that. So real quick to share kind of how it came about too is I actually opened up a gym in Montana with a business partner about 3 years ago. And that really gave me I took on that opportunity because I really wanted to be able to test our systems and operations that we had in place here in a totally different market. I mean, our market here in Seattle, there's, 1 million people in the area, very affluent area. Montana, where we're at, it's less than 40,000 in the city and way less affluent and stuff. So I knew I would be able to kind of test operations and procedures and how we run things there. So that was a huge help. And we were able to have a lot of success in that gym right off the bat, which was great. And then fast forward to us opening our location here, our second location here. Before we did that, I had a couple calls with Tom, and he was a big proponent on being able to, if we're going to open up a second one, it's like we're opening up 10 of them, because you can open up 2 and kind of fly by the seat of your pants and the owner's going back and forth. And if you don't have procedures in place, you can do it, but you're not going to be able to scale and open up more than 2. Once you get past that second one, like kind of the BS all gets weeded out and the owner can't be going back and forth between the 3, and it has to run on systems and stuff. So rather than go through the growing pains of that with the third one, we knew that when we opened up this second one that we had to have all the operations and procedures and all that kind of stuff in place, just like you said. So the experience is the exact same. It's just like we're opening 10 of them. So what we did with Tom's guidance is put together an operations manual. I put it together with my operations manager. It took me about probably 7-8 months or so.
Yeah,
it's
an amazing document.
Yeah, if you've seen it, yep, exactly. I usually share it with people when I'm doing my talks and presentations and stuff. And so it's about 70 pages, but it's like everything we do from like, okay, if you're a coach, this is how you turn on the lights in the morning. This is how you put stuff away. This is how we do all the way to, this is how we do our marketing. This is how our semi-private programming is. This is how, all the kind of stuff. But what that allowed us to do is to be able to create consistency, train our staff off of that, get everybody on the same page, and then be able to scale that to, 4 or 5 locations like we want to do. And part of that too is like my long-term goal, if I'm being honest, is to sell these businesses, in the next 15 years or whatever it is. And I think if we can sell these 4 or 5 locations with the manual in place of like, almost like it's a franchise, here's how you run it, I think that's going to be a lot more appealing as well. But it also just makes everything more consistent and easier to run. And then now we're kind of morphing that. What I'm working on now is trying to get those manuals even more dialed into where we have like a sales manual, a customer service manual, a training manual, and all that kind of stuff, just so that everything is very scalable, very consistent, so that when we do go to open up these other locations, we're not kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and we actually have a game plan in place.
I mean, that's all fine, Danny. It's an amazing document, and you put a ton of work into it. But I've seen people who have wonderful plans, or they have systems in place. They write it up. It's beautiful. They even post it on the wall for their employees to see, but they don't actually follow through with it. So you have to keep going back to those fundamentals that you posted in your kind of your manifesto, if you will, for your staff. And also make sure that when it starts to slip a little bit, you go, hey guys, you agreed to this. So what I got out of your operations manual was I created for my staff a kind of a, almost like a document explaining who we are, why we're doing what we're doing, and then have them buy into this. Like, are you in on this? Like, do you believe in this? Because if you do, this is how we're going to execute on it. And I want you to be a part of it. And so it wasn't like a contract per se. It was more of just an agreement that we're all doing this for the right reason and we're doing it the right way. And then that allowed me to call them back in and say, look, guys, we're starting to slip on this one. Remember we said, being there early, making sure that the place is, presentable before you even think about starting with your first client. Those things are starting to slip. You're starting to show up 5 minutes late. You're starting to, you know what I mean? And, but some of those things do slip. And I have seen too many organizations not follow through with those manuals that they create.
Yeah, and it just keeps everybody on the same page, keeps everybody's vision the same, and just creates consistency, and so there's expectations.
Right. So that operations manual, fantastic. Took a lot of work, like you said, 7-8 months. But your goal is to then satellite this out and create 4 or 5. You could have as many as you want once that starts to really get momentum. But I've always had this thing about business plans. My business advisors have always said, you need a business plan. You need a business plan. And what I find is some people, they spend so much time on the business plan that they don't actually spend that time could have been used actually executing on the business. And then they never refer back to that business plan ever. It's just like this thing that sits in their files. And I'm just like, if you're not going to use the business plan, then what's it doing there? You spent months that you could have been putting into the business, and you put it into now, if you want to go to the bank and get money, you need a business plan. But you know what I mean? Like, you needed to put that 7 months of hard work in because now you have a sellable product that you can now duplicate. But that first business plan, did you go in your first business? Did you go in deep with a business plan to start?
No, man, we just put one together because our leasing agent needed us to show one to our landlord and stuff like you talked about. We weren't getting money from the bank, but it's the same type of deal. Like, put this business plan together so they can see what you're doing, so they trust you as a tenant. And then I probably have it saved somewhere, but we never used it from then.
Yeah. It's always for other people. It's never for yourself.
Yeah, no, it's never for yourself. And then the operations thing, though, is different because that is a document that's always changing and always evolving and stuff that we always train our staff on. And I think going back to what we talked about as the owner, like, I think a big part of the ownership is being able to be the person that has the pulse on the business and what your product is and stuff like that. And so that's why, I don't have time to train 40 hours a week, because part of my role is making sure that I'm training staff and I'm keeping them accountable and everybody's delivering the product that we want to deliver. And a lot of that is off that operations manual so that they know what the expectations and stuff are like that. But yeah, business plan wise, we haven't used ours since we drafted it up day one. So
yeah, it becomes a little bit of a paperweight. But to be fair though, I don't want people to get the wrong idea that there's no plan. There is certainly a plan, but the plan is a rough outline of what you're trying to accomplish. And then the daily actions are filling in those gaps. But you do need the structure. You need to know the end game. What are your fundamentals? What are your principles that you believe in? You need all those things. I'm just saying, in a formalized plan like that, I just feel like the time could be put elsewhere. So now you're, where's the next venture going to be? Like, you've got 2 successful places. One is very golf specific. Your kind of third location, but your second one in Seattle. And that is just, dude, that's first class. Like, I'm just absolutely loving that place. So do my clients. So the next venture, is it going to be more like your initial gym setting, or is it going to be, again, that hybrid golf, technical and coaching, medical all in one unit?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think we will probably go more towards the golf feel model. So our whole thing is we don't ever want to pigeonhole ourselves into one type of training, one type of client. So the golf has always been a big part of what we do. I've been with TPI now for 6 years, and we've been doing a lot of golf fitness stuff in the area, but we always knew that we didn't want our whole business to only be golf fitness, because we felt like we were kind of pigeonholing ourselves, because we're in an area here where, there's so many tech companies. It's so affluent. The need is for the small group kind of customized, like 40 to 60-year-old tech client as well. And if we're being honest, that's also what helps pays our bills as well, and create the revenue that we need to create. And so the second location was interesting test for us, because we do have the 2 TrackMan bays in there. We partnered with a medical professional who has an office in there, and we partnered with a TPI golf fitness professional who teaches out of there and stuff. And so the big thing with us is that, like, not every location has to be the exact same, but it needs to have the same principles, same operation stuff. So we run all the same systems out of that second location. It just looks a little different because we have more of the golf feel. But the benefit of that is there's been a lot of cross referrals. A lot of the guys that come in that take the lessons there with the swing coach then want to do the fitness side with us. And then also, obviously, we split the rent, so our overhead is a lot lower. So that kind of hybrid model for us, I think, is the most profitable one going forward. And so I think we will continue to open up more locations like that, where we do have a little bit of the golf and TrackMan feel, but also it's separated enough to where we can still train our normal clients out of there and they don't feel like they have to be a golfer to come in there.
Absolutely. Dude, everything that you're doing, I'm taking notes. When I come down to your facilities and I check out the way you do your job, the way you set yourself up, and just from the interaction with your staff, everything, I'm mentally taking notes constantly, because it makes me better. And as soon as I get back to my gym, I'm like, man, I gotta step it up. I gotta make some adjustments to my systems. And I'm just so proud of you, man. I just seen not even where you came from, because where you came from, you were a little bit, quieter, timid almost in your approach to what you wanted to do and what you wanted to accomplish. And I resonate with that, because it was very Canadian almost of you to be like, you're almost apologetic for your successes. And then I saw you start to flourish and evolve. And then you got this kind of confidence, and you got this kind of like, no, this works, and I deserve this. And I'm so impressed with the evolution over the last 7 years that you've had. So maybe talk to me a little bit about like as a person, not just like people see you as the business that you've created, but as a person, you've had a lot of personal growth. Maybe just share a little bit about Dan Kleckner and kind of the journey that you had to go through personally to maybe get some of the confidence to execute on some of these big projects and take on some of these big tasks.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like I talked about before too, so I was doing really well at the first training gym I was at. I was one of the top trainers there. I was kind of, had a badge of honor of how many hours I would do each month, being one of the top 3 trainers there, just like you talked about. And then when I got fired from there, I really had to scramble and figure out, and honestly, that was a big knock to my confidence as well, because I thought I was this just hot shot trainer there and doing an amazing job and all this kind of stuff. And then that got taken away from me. And at that time, I had just gotten married. My wife and I had just bought a house. So that strained a lot of me. It took a lot away from my confidence. I wasn't sure, I wasn't really self-assured. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But now, as I share in my talking, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because if that didn't happen to me, I might still be training there. We might not be having this conversation today with me opening up my own gyms and stuff. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It sucked at the time, but it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And then from there, I think I slowly started to build that confidence back up. I learned a lot at the gym I was at after that, because I was with them from day one, where they opened up from day one, and I got to see how the business grew, how the business side of things worked, how the operations side of things worked. I was very thankful for that. And then I also realized at that point that, that probably wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And I was kind of in this hole and not sure what to do. And then, not to keep plugging the mentorship, because I know that's not what this is about, but that was just a huge spark for me. Like, I went into that room, we spent the time that weekend, and by the end of that weekend, like I talked about, the other 7 people in that room were like, dude, yeah, why aren't you running your own gym? You should totally be doing that. And that light bulb just kind of clicked. Like, okay, if these guys believe in me, if Jay believes in me, this is something that I can do. And then it just grew from there. And a lot of my confidence honestly came from working with these mentors and stuff too. Cause I mean, as you know, Tom's probably is the best business coach in the industry, honestly. And for him to see something in me, to continue to work with me and have confidence in me and allow me to even speak at some of his NFBA events and just put a lot of confidence in me, that he believed in me and he thought I was, able to do the stuff I'm able to do and have these successes and stuff. So him believing in me, getting that spark from your mentorship, having guys like Rick Mayo believe in me as well, all that kind of stuff has really helped my confidence and just helped me to continue to grow. And then I'm super fortunate as well that I have a great support system at home. I think that's a big part of it. My wife is super supportive. She works as well. She works part-time as well. But she's always sacrificing stuff for me to be able, I travel a lot. I'm running the 3 businesses. Like, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that. And she's able to hold it down at home and just be an amazing mom and just really support me and my goals. And I think I've seen that with a lot of business owners where their spouse or the person they're at home with maybe isn't super supportive of what they're doing or isn't totally bought in, and it just leads to chaos and you can't grow that way. And so I'm super fortunate that my wife is very supportive and has always been there for me and really helps me with these goals. And we set goals together too. Like we set goals with the business together, and I share the numbers with her. I'm like, this is what we need to do this month. These are my goals speaking wise, professionally wise. These are our goals personally, as far as like, this is the time we want to spend with our kids. This is how we want to raise our kids. These are the trips we want to take, that kind of stuff. So we're very transparent with our communication and setting goals together. And I think that's a big part of me being confident as well, because I know that she's got my back, and just the support systems in place from her and my mentors and stuff have really helped with my confidence.
No, that's huge. That was a big thing for my wife and I when I started increasing my speaking engagements and traveling more. At first, to be honest, we had a young family, and it was a strain because every time I went away and came back, I almost felt a little bit of resentment, just a little bit of like, well, I hope you had fun, and then I had to kind of explain, well, it's not just fun. Like, I'm working my ass off. Yes, I have fun, but I have fun. I'm going to find a way to have fun anywhere. But it wasn't until I got her to be a part of the team. Like, let's do this together. So yes, I am the person on stage. I'm the person that's getting on the plane to go do this, but we're working as a team. So at the start of every year, we'd sit down and go, what are we capable of? What are we capable of accomplishing this year? And which of these opportunities do we want to take on? And there's a big difference between that and saying, hey, hon, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. Like, that's a big difference. Coming and saying, you're not even asking for permission. You're asking for your teammate to discuss whether or not you as a family can handle that stress, and is the benefit of it worth it for both of you. So I could see that, in you when you talk about some of your goals, being able to, take your family on vacation. You want time for yourself as well to be able to play golf. You play more golf than I do. You play probably more than I do.
Well, my golf is linked to some business purposes as well.
Yeah, that's what you keep telling your wife. I understand that. I get that. Yeah, I tried that one as well. Actually, my wife's the opposite. She keeps going, you need to golf more. I'm like, when am I going to have time to golf? She's like, you just need to go and golf. Please, please, please.
Real quick, though, I think that's such a good point that you brought up, because we went through that same evolution as well, where the first trips I went on, she was like, oh, that's awesome. You get to go hang out with your friends and get away from the kids and stuff like that. But then once I brought her into those goals and explained, like, hey, no, I'm doing this for X amount of reasons. Like, I'm flying down to see Chris for this speaking thing, all that kind of stuff, and explain that to her and get her on board with that. Then she totally understood, and it made things way easier. And so I just wanted to, that's such a good point that you bring up, because if you're just doing it and not explaining why you're doing it, it's hard for them to get on board with these long-term goals and understand the reasoning behind why you're traveling and why you're having to do all the stuff that you have to do.
Yeah, and you know what? I just want to touch one more time on the idea of the confidence to do some of the things you've done. Looking hindsight, when we talk about successes, when we talk about, we've talked a little bit about some of the hardships that we went through, or the challenges that we went through to develop the businesses we did. But I want to make everybody very, very clear on this. As confident as we can come across and as successful as we could appear on the outside, there is incredible vulnerability inside. There's an incredible, what if this doesn't work? This year, building out my online mentorship. Like, what if people don't like it? What if I put this thing together and people don't see the value in it? So I go to bed at night, and there's nights that I don't sleep. There's days that I wake up and I'm like, okay, I got to do something, but I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know. I just got to start. I know I got to start, but I don't know what it's going to be yet. But I just know I got to put one foot forward. So I don't want people to misunderstand that with this success has, for you, sleepless nights over, will this gym, get off the floor, or can we pay back those debtors? Can we pay our staff? And especially during these times. there is some vulnerability and some anxiety that goes with the risks and rewards that we put forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really easy to do these kind of interviews and just to showcase all the positive things and successes we have. And that's great, because a lot of that is because of this mentorship and stuff I've been able to do. But you're right. You got to be vulnerable, and there's plenty of stuff that I've failed at and struggled with. And like you said, sleepless nights, wondering how we're going to keep the gym open, how we're going to pay people through this COVID shutdown, like, how I'm going to be there for my family, all that kind of stuff. And so I think you have to be vulnerable, and you have to put yourself out there, and also realize that you're going to fail and fail a lot. I mean, I failed a ton during these businesses, but I think if you're the type of person that can look at those failures and figure out, how you can improve from those, how you can get better from those, then I think you can do okay and continue to move forward, versus being the person that, gets down in the dumps with those failures and maybe just doesn't want to move forward or feel sorry for yourself or whatever it is. But yeah, we're all going to have failures. We're all going to have stuff that goes wrong. And I've had plenty of those. So I don't want I don't want that to go unnoticed in this interview, that I've
Right.
had plenty of struggles as well.
I don't even like to think of the word failure. Here's the way I see it. I've really honestly, over the last 3 years, taken the love of the work, like this kind of takes it full circle from the start of this conversation. It is the work that gives me the joy. It's the work that gives me the sense of accomplishment, not the end goal. So to say that you have failure, that is an outcome. Failure is an outcome, but if you're inside the work, there is no outcome. There is no finish line. These are checkpoints that we could say this was not where we wanted to be at this point, but it's not a failure. That's part of the work that we're doing towards to doing more work. There is no finish line. And if you have a business that has a finish line, and it could even be you could say the sale of your business could be the finish line. No, it's not, because what are you going to do with those resources? It's then going to be evolving and transferring into something else. So I really, I look at those failures, if you will, those checkpoints, as just little reminders to maybe relook at the journey that I'm on, maybe look at the map and decide whether or not I'm on the most efficient route towards this destination that will never be reached. And that, for some reason, that mindset, it helps me a lot, knowing that there's not like an end goal, because I keep moving the goalposts. Like you want to be a Perform Better speaker. Okay, check it off the list. Well, did you check it off the list, or instantly, as soon as you finished that presentation, did you not start thinking about next year?
Yeah, exactly, dude. I think that's such a good point too, because as a business owner, you're always working on the processes and different stuff. And there really is no, like you said, there really is no endpoint. So that's such a good way to put it. And I got to the Perform Better thing this year, and you think like, okay, cool, check, that's done. I hit that goal. But yeah, that's not the case at all. Now I got to continue to work and do it next year. And same thing with the businesses. You may hit certain checkpoints and, financial goals and stuff like that, but you're always still having to continue to grow and put in the work. And I think that with the business owners that I consult with, one of the most challenging things for them is time management and organizing the stuff that they need to get done each week. And I've been really lucky. That's been kind of a strength of mine since I was a little kid. I shared in my Perform Better talk that when I was a kid, for Christmas, we would get presents and I would like line them up as soon as I got them and organize them and make sure they were all lined up. And so organization and structure and all that kind of stuff has always been a strong suit of mine. So I'm fortunate that I think I got that from my parents. But a lot of business owners struggle with that. So that's something I'm always trying to help them with during our consulting is like, there's a million things you could have on your to-dos that you got to do each week, but you got to understand the process, put in the work, and figure out like your time management, what's most important, what do we got to get done this week, and just kind of reverse engineer everything.
Absolutely. We'll take it full circle. This particular podcast, I'm not going to paint over. This will be, this conversation needs to get out, and it needs to get out to the coaches out there, and any entrepreneur, or even somebody in a job who has an entrepreneurial spirit. You can have a day job and still be an entrepreneur. It can be a small project that you're working on. But I just really want to encourage people to really listen to what Dan's saying here, and understand that it's like you said, you're an overnight success over the last 7 years. The most important thing is you started, and then the second most important thing is you put the hard work in and just did the work. So if you're going to go down a venture, believe in yourself as much as you can. Know that the anxiety that you feel it's valid and it's there for a reason. And it's just to remind you that there are risks associated with this. But then just start and put your first foot forward, and then just work your ass off and stay in the work, enjoy the work, enjoy the journey. And you might be sitting here like Dan here.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think there's a lot of people out there that, kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit, but they're just afraid to get started. And I mean, that's the first thing you gotta do is just get started. And then from there, it's easy to keep the momentum. I mean, it's not easy, but it's easier to keep the momentum going and continue to grow and build off of that. But you got to get started. And that's what I talk a lot about in these Perform Better talks is like, I always say that I'm not anything special as far as what's going on with me speaking. And I was a attendee 7 years ago at Perform Better and then worked my way up to speak at it. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. But as far as the lines go, you just got to get started. And then you just got to surround yourself with the right people. And I also got real quick, I forgot to mention before, give a big shout out to my parents too. Cause I think with the support system, they've always been encouraging me to, follow your dreams, do what you got to do what you enjoy. That was a big thing for me is I always knew I wanted to be in a field where I enjoyed going to work every day. I see clients that I work with every day that make hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars or whatever, but they're not happy because they don't enjoy what they do every day. And it's great they have all that money, but they're not happy in their lives. And so my parents have always pushed that for me from day one is be happy, enjoy what you do, put in the work, build those connections, build those relationships, but ultimately do something that you enjoy. And then, like I said, I'm just super fortunate. My wife supports that. My business coaches, yourself, Rick, Tom, support that. And it's just, you got to have the support system. You got to have the right people in place that continue to push you forward, but also that, keep you grounded and keep you going, and also allow you to just do the things that you want to do and continue to support you no matter what your goals are.
Yeah. Big shout out to your dad, the voice of Spokane.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but my dad's like the Ron Burgundy of Spokane. We talked about that a little bit in the mentorship. I honestly think that's where I got my ability to just like build connections. I think one of my strengths is being able to build relationships with, guys like yourself and Tom and Rick and stuff, and just build connections. And I 100% got that from my dad because I got to see how he went out in the community and being the face of the community in Spokane there, and just built relationships with everybody through his charity work, through their viewers, all the events they do. And he's just so amazing at connecting and being able to build relationships with people. And luckily he's always pushed that on me. He said, doesn't matter what you know, it's who you know. And so build connections, build relationships. And the reason I've been able to be where I'm at is because I've been able to connect with some very awesome people and build relationships with them, and they've helped me grow. If I didn't have that, I mean, there's no way I'd be able to be where I'm at today. So,
well, from the son of Ron Burgundy, I guess that makes me the son of Whammy. I don't know what character I came out of, but I gotta say, dude, I'm honored to have you be a part of the mentorship now. You're actually one of my coaches in the mentorship because you just bring so much value to the business end. Bringing you on last year and the year before, but last year was pivotal because we had a couple mentorees that honestly I didn't know if I had the solution. And when I brought you in and told you their story, you very quickly came to some strategies for them, and so I'm honored to have you as part of my mentorship coaching staff and our team. Or I don't want to call it staff because you're not the staff, we're just teammates. And so I'm looking forward to the online mentorship and your really bringing what you bring to the table with these people and helping become a mentor for them. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Just kind of close things up. It's been a super humbling and awesome experience for me to be able to come back to the mentorship the last 2 years and speak at it and work with the mentors there and be able to build relationships with them, because obviously I was in their seat 7 years ago, and it's amazing to just come back and super humbling to be able to talk to them and share the experience with them. And like I said, I know you don't need me to toot your horn on it or to push the mentorship, but I can't recommend it enough. Like, it's a life-changing experience. People just need to do it and get out there and realize that you're not alone. You know, seek out mentors, seek out people to help you through this process. And there's no better thing, in my opinion. Like I said, we've talked about before, I've gone to a lot of different events, seminars, all that kind of stuff. None of them have had the impact on my life and my career that those 3 days in the mentorship had on me. And like I said, I know you don't need me to say that, but I want to say that because I just can't emphasize enough how big of a step that was for me and how much it's helped me. And now to come back full circle and to be able to speak at those and work with you on it has just been an amazing experience.
Cool, man. Well, we can do this for the next half hour, just give compliments back and forth, but we're not going to do that. We're going to finish it up with this. As always, we want to dream big, over deliver, and be undeniable. And I don't think that there's somebody more deserving of those three concepts, or someone who exemplifies. Is that a word? Exemplifies? I think you're the example of dream big, over deliver, and being undeniable. And you're going to continue to do that because the journey, like I say, never ends. And I can't wait to see where you end up and how this whole thing evolves for you going forward. We're going to look back at this tape, just like we look back at your tape from 7 years ago.
Which was terrible.
Yeah, and you're going to cringe again. You're going to cringe about today, and we both will. And we'll go, wow, I can't believe that was us 10 years ago. And look where we are today. So Jay's in the gutter, and Dan owns the world. He's the president of the U.S. I don't know. Okay, wow, we really spun off the wrong way there. You know what I'm saying. I can't wait to see where we go with this journey moving forward. And thanks for coming on the show, buddy. This has been enjoyable, and I think we improved on last one.
Yeah, I think it was even better, man. And yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate having me on and allowing me to share my story. And for anybody out there that's listening to this, like, utilize me, utilize Jay, reach out, let us know how we can help. That's what I'm here for. I love working with other business owners and coaches and stuff. So hopefully you guys got some valuable information today out of this podcast, but I appreciate you having me on and utilize me if it's warranted.
Awesome. So go out there, get yourself a mentor in your community or in your profession, whatever it happens to be. Find somebody who you trust, somebody who's going to be honest with you, forthright, and also kind of give you a little nudge in the right direction. And get a network of people that you can trust and rely on, and that will push you to be the best version of yourself. And until next time, dream big, over deliver, be undeniable. And what do we say next, Dan?
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Awesome. Let's do it.